Half-Life is a first-person shooter made by Valve in 1998. It combined one of the most popular gameplay styles, which is moving fast and shooting, and added puzzles and storytelling. And it is precisely because of this approach to the FPS genre that it became so popular in the first place. It is a special place in many gamers' hearts, both because of its storytelling and because of its nostalgia. I played Half-Life a few years ago for the first time, and despite being someone that only played more graphically updated games like GTA or Fortnite, I never got bothered by Half-Life graphics or mechanics. Instead, I loved the mechanics that Half-Life provided, and I appreciated the modernism of this 20-year-old game. It turns out that the modern approach to Half-Life wasn't a coincidence. It is because of Valve's genius when it comes to effort into video games. To see how Half-Life took its mechanics seriously, let's look at the first thing a gamer usually does when opening a game: the settings. More specifically, for a game this old, you would expect to have the controls use an outdated arrow key setup, right? Half-Life 1, however, was one of the first games to have the WASD layout by default. The WASD layout was used by a professional Quake player and quickly became the default for every game because of games like Half-Life. As you can expect, the graphics for this game aren't really that customizable because of technical limitations at the time, but they did add a 16:9 aspect resolution on Steam port so that gamers could enjoy Half-Life without looking at a black monitor with a little bit of game in it. Nothing much more for settings apart from the basic multiplayer settings, which don't really help since the multiplayer is dead. Whether you're running or shooting headcrabs or listening to NPC dialogue, Half-Life makes a great effort to convey a story without taking the player's controls away. This set a different perspective on how to tell a story and paved the way for future game developers to understand more about storytelling through video games. An example is this tram ride.
93 degrees, with an estimated high of 105. The Black Mesa compound is maintained at a pleasant 68 degrees at all times.
In this tram ride, you start out with no one with you or anyone to shoot. This was very rare for shooters in the 90s, especially for intros. It was even considered new tech. When it comes to cutscenes, Valve knew the player didn't want to get stuck and lose their controls, but there was also no point in letting them roam free for no reason at all. Valve found a clever way to fix this issue, a way that most developers at the time hadn't thought of. Give the players things to do while NPCs are talking. In one aspect, this makes its environment more real and it immerses you on the game, but on the other hand, it lets people who already played the game to interact with physics objects and look at beautiful sceneries instead of actually listening to the cutscene that they already heard 1,000 times. More often, however, Valve decides to let the storytelling be near you but not forced upon you. For example, at the beginning of the game, there's this elevator door after the Resonance Cascade that makes scientists crash all the way down to the bottom. And although it's very tragic, it also lets you know that death can't really be avoided in the middle of the chaos, and that you should avoid your own death and accept that others might not be so lucky. Another example is the lack of objective markers, which are instead replaced by NPC dialogue. NPCs can tell you important info that you might need for beating the game. Having a story in an FPS game was a bold move back when Half-Life was released. Games like Doom and Quake, which were predecessors to Half-Life, didn't have much of a story, and even though a little story was there, it wasn't presented in an appealing way. Much less was it the focus of the game. It is clear that Gabe Newell wanted to create something unique for Half-Life. Half-Life came with 3 DLCs. Blue Shift, which follows Black Mesa employee Barney in his journey through the events of Half-Life 1. Opposing Forces, which views Half-Life 1 from the eyes of a military man sent to kill everyone in Black Mesa. And Decay, which is sort of a prequel to Half-Life 1, where you get the crystal of Gordon Freeman. In Half-Life 1, you play as Gordon Freeman, a scientist who is late to his job and is meant to place a crystal into a machine without teleporting multiple aliens to kill everyone in the facility. Anyways, after Gordon succeeds at teleporting multiple aliens to kill everyone in the facility,
Oh yeah! Gordon, get away from them! Shut it down! No! Attempt to shut it down! It's not shutting down! It's not...
he moves through the area trying to find an exit. After Gordon moves through the facility, we are brought to meet our first headcrab, which we can't fight. This is a way to show our inferiority compared to creatures which will soon be completely overpowered by our HEV suit, crowbar, and guns. That encounter helps to humble us and tell us we can't always obliterate monsters all out like in Doom. We need to get powerful to actually accomplish something in Black Mesa. Anyways, I won't go through every chapter since that would be kinda boring, but Gordon basically goes all the way through the facility until he teleports to Zen, which is where the aliens come from. He eventually finds the boss and kills him with bullets, even though he's a massive baby. But let's not question that. Anyways, end of story, right? Wrong. Gordon gets stopped by the G-Man, a mysterious figure that has been watching us ever since we started the game. He offers us a deal between dying or living in stasis until he needs us, and unless you hate Half-Life 2 and want the whole story to not be real, then you pick going into stasis.
Wisely done, Mr. Freeman. I will see you up ahead.
One really nice addition to the Half-Life franchise is that it doesn't really shy away from being creepy at times. Even if there isn't a specific spot in Half-Life where a creepy thing happens or something, which there are by the way, Half-Life's enemy design is mostly built to be creepy. From the scientists' distorted screams when they are zombified, to the large fingers on the actual zombies, Half-Life is filled with details that are hard to look for but are really easy to get influenced by. Not so fun fact, in the HD models of the zombie, it has sharp teeth in its belly, similar to the headcrab's teeth. Valve's brilliant design also comes in the form of audio. Valve made it so that voices would echo in rooms, and it was even running on the first copy to come out. I found this impressive myself since I thought it was a porting to Steam fix. In Valve's games, Half-Life not being an exception, detail in the environments is peak. For example, when you're on your way to get the HEV suit, you run past a break lounge.
Greetings! It's ties. That's odd. My God, what are you doing?
Which has a microwave and a soda dispenser. You can blow someone's food up in the microwave by interacting with it, and you can also ask the vending machine for a soda. This attention to detail and effort is what makes Valve have that positive talk about itself. NPCs had stunning tech for the 1990s. Friendly NPCs mostly just talked to you or got scared because of guns or loud noises, but enemy NPCs are where the tech really shines. Enemy NPCs know your location based on sight, sound, and even smell. It's 2022 and I can't name a single game that isn't Half-Life that can make enemies smell you. They were amazing NPCs, and they have really nice dialogue even if it's only them talking, since Gordon is mute. Another insane piece of tech that is missing from current games is Valve's map loading. It is insane how you can quickly get from one map to another with a seamless loading screen. No cinematic cutscene or cool wallpaper, but just the raw gameplay. That makes you feel like you really are in Black Mesa, which is just one massive map, even if it's multiple tiny maps. It's impressive how innovative Valve was back in the 90s. Surprisingly, we got this far without talking about what got me into Source games in general, which is speedrunning. If you somehow didn't know, speedrunning is trying to finish this game as fast as you can. It's a competition against yourself and other speedrunners if you're really good, to see how fast your time is to finish the game. What made me fall in love with Source speedruns, whether that be Gold Source, Source, or Source 2, was the insane broken moving tactics like B-hopping and back-hopping. B-hopping is taking advantage of the strafe keys, A and D, default, to navigate yourself through the air. This form of moving forward doesn't have a speed cap. A speed cap is the limit your game has for how much speed you can have. B-hopping, which is short for bunny hopping, is essential to a good speedrun because an advanced movement tactic is very helpful when trying to cover a large distance quickly. I might cover ABHing in another video since this video is about Half-Life and Gold Source, which use B-hopping. Now, I personally got into Valve's games from the Portal 2 speedrun community, so I'm not entirely an expert in Half-Life speedrunning. If you do want to learn how to speedrun Half-Life 1 from an expert though, I do have Wowie Alley's Half-Life 1 tutorial linked in the description. Half-Life is a first-person shooter made by Valve in 1998. It combined one of the most popular gameplay styles, which was moving fast and shooting, and added puzzles and storytelling to it. And it is precisely because of this approach to the FPS genre that it became so popular in the first place. It has a standard control set, no cutscene, and beautiful story combined with a nice way to tell the story. It pays attention to detail and is good in design in general. And it has extremely advanced AI for its time, and map loading for even today's time. Its meaning on the speedrun community has impacted many. Half-Life is a great game. Anyways, if you like my content, it would really help if you could support my channel in any way, since I am passionate about games and really want to share my experience from my point of view. Thank you so much for watching. See ya.
Don't know how you can say that, although I will admit that the possibility of a resonance cascade scenario is extremely unlikely.
Gordon doesn't need to hear all this. He's a highly trained professional. We've assured the...